Welcome to the Southern U Podcast, brought to you by Darden Archery on the OKest Podcast Network, with your co-host, Matt Brock, Jeremy Ferguson, and Taylor McMurtry. If you're looking for all things land-related in the Southeast, you came to the right place. Whether it's real estate, habitat, wildlife, or just being outdoors, this is the place for you. Welcome to the Southern U. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Southern U Podcast, where we try to provide resources for all things land related in the Southeast. Anything from timber, agriculture, farm, hunting, recreational, all things outdoors. It's Taylor McMurtry, and I'm joined by, wait a minute, you're not the legend.
Nope, and I never will be.
That's Jeremy Ferguson of Tutland Company and
What's up, folks?
Wildlife Consulting Services.
Yeah, and we actually are trying to get some information. I'm trying to figure out who the guy was in X-Files.
Yeah, I'll say if you guys know who
that's what we talk about.
Yeah, the main character in X-Files, was it Scully and Moeller, or was it Mulder? We can't remember.
Can't remember.
A quick Google.
Drop a comment and tell us, because we're not going to Google it.
Yes, and and we're kicking off our Ask a Biologist series, where you guys have sent in questions to ask a wildlife biologist, and if there's anything that you've always wanted to ask them, we're gonna throw it at them and see.
Yep, and we're gonna pick different ones.
That's right.
We're gonna kind of rotate through a bunch of different folks that have agreed to help out.
That's right. And the first one, guest of honor, Miss Brae Swagert.
Hey.
Brae, I'm going to let you give your own intro because I don't want to mess it up. I feel like you know more about yourself than I do. So maybe a quick intro as to how you know the legend and the Ferg.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord. I'm going to get disowned if I call him the legend. I've already been threatened.
He really despises it. And that's what's fun for me and you.
If he didn't hate it so much, I would drop it.
Yeah.
But now I can't.
I would drop it, and I told him, I was like, look, as long as you're going to call me Tay-Tay, you're going to be the legend. So we can go as long as you want to go, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm Brae. I know Brock and Jeremy from our tenure at DCNR. Now I'm on board with Tutland Company and helping out with Wildlife Consulting Services and Habitat First Properties.
Roll Tide.
No. Absolutely not.
War Eagle.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, so Brae worked with us at the department. I'm going to step on your toes a little bit. And we developed a pretty good working relationship. Primarily you and Matt did more, because I was already kind of out the door.
You were out the door when I came in.
Yeah, when you came in. But through working with a few folks at DCNR, we were able to identify some targets that we wanted to steal away if we ever had the opportunity.
There we go.
And she's one of them. And there's still a couple lingering out there that work for the department. So,
oh man, I hope nobody at the state listens to this podcast.
I hate it, guys.
There's targets placed.
Yes, all the Montgomery staff, but yeah, we're still after a couple more. So,
gosh, you're gonna have bounties on your head.
Bear with us.
Gonna have bounties.
I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah.
Hey man, look, it's hard to find good people. So when you can find good people, as long as you don't destroy relationships, you go get them.
That's right. No doubt. Well, we're excited to have Brae, and we're excited to kick off this series. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, but the only problem is I'm not a biologist, so you can't. I'm going to need some of those.
Help.
Yeah, I need some of those people around to do this with. So,
and just FYI, so everybody does know, Matt just said, I'm too busy for y'all.
That's right.
So, in other words, he's not good at time management, because we're all here.
That's right.
So,
and it's late too.
It is.
This is later than we normally go.
He could have been here. I ran you late. Yes.
I was about to say,
stab,
you're talking on time management.
Little stab. Hey, when people are trying to list properties with you, you let them talk. Especially when they've got lots and lots of zeros at the end.
Yeah, that's right, man. No
You
doubt.
stay there as long as they want.
That's right.
So I do apologize for running everybody late.
Nope, we're good. We can throw Matt under the bus because he's not here to defend himself. So, sorry, Matt.
I'm not.
But before we jump into our questions, you guys know the format. We're going to ask 5 questions, and we're going to, I guess, bounce it off the 2 biologists in the room and see what they say on your questions. And before we do that, though, I do want to give a shout-out to our kind of presenting sponsor, Dart and Archery, Black Eagle Arrows, Conquest. We went to South Texas a couple weeks ago. And
a couple of you got to wear your bowstrings out.
That's true. I know.
The other fella just sat back and watched and filmed.
Hey, I will say though, if you haven't checked out the video, I think there's gonna be at least 3 videos, probably 4 from what we did in South Texas. If you haven't checked those out, jump on the YouTube channel and just go give it a watch. I think you'll like it. We sling some arrows at some javelinas, and Jeremy did like for real. Y'all did a good job filming everything because it made like editing that whole thing a lot of fun. You know, it's cool putting it together.
Yeah,
a lot better than my footage was. Now you wouldn't even know
the professional videographer.
Yeah, like you wouldn't even know that it was me. You just see arrows flinging and animals dying, but you don't know it's me. So, anyways, but check it out. We got a lot of more stuff coming from South Texas, but we do thank Randy and all the guys at Darton for helping make this podcast possible and outfitting us. Made that South Texas trip even better because we were able to take some nice equipment down there and do some damage. It was fun.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, and then of course the deer capture, which you guys will see. Like I said, it's going to be one of the videos coming up. We did,
and I want to throw something in because I'm sitting here messing with it. The little hand smashing episode.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I'm going deep into the weeds here, but in the shower, 2 days ago.
Here we go, guys.
And my wrist, where that door slammed on my hand, was hurting. I was like, man, this should be over with and done by now.
Yeah.
I smashed piss out of my hand, but this should be done with. And the little spot, you can see it there, it festered up. There was a piece of broke off metal just drove down in my hand about 1/8 of an inch. And when I squeezed and it popped, that little shard of metal.
Sweet relief.
I was like, yes.
sweet
I had no clue that it was in there, but somehow it was in there.
Oh, that's wild, man.
But I guess that's why it has been so sore.
Yeah, it had a foreign object inside of you, man. That makes sense. Yeah, it probably feels better.
It does.
But with that being said, guys, we're going to jump right in. Obviously, you guys have been asking questions or have been sending your questions in through Instagram, and I try to check all platforms, but the bulk of these have come through Instagram. So number one,
and some dang good ones.
Oh yeah, good one. And thank you, by the way, for those of you who have participated in this. You're going to make this series really good or really bad, and I think it's going to be really good because of the stuff that you have asked. So. With that being said, this is the only time that we have actually ever somewhat teed up the guest.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is you guys asked some really good questions, and some of it requires like a little bit of
certain person.
Yeah, and I mean, so some of these questions we kind of have to let somebody in on what's going on so that you can do some.
So we make sure the right person.
That's right.
Can provide as much information as possible.
Most of us, I mean, even Brae, I think, would consider herself more generalist in what we do. Mm-hmm. We don't specifically work just on turkeys or just deer or just quail like some people. But when we get very specific questions, we work with a ton of people that's the only species they work with. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to go to them to get you, the proper answer to questions like that. And that's what this whole series is about.
Yep, that's right. So, Brae, if you're ready, we're going to jump right in here.
Okay.
I don't think this one's too bad. This is kind of a good warm-up question, I think.
Okay.
First one here is, what is the best way to get rid of sweet gum trees? Now, we've got a ton of them here in the South. It doesn't really matter. If you're in the Southeast, you're probably dealing with them. What is the best way to get rid of them?
It depends. No.
Hey, she knows what's up.
She watches and listens.
That's right.
No, so you've got a couple different options, and I think it really depends on what stage of sweet gums you're working with. I've had some really good experience, especially with, knee high and lower with some growing season burns. You can get that fire hot enough and get it sitting on some of those undesirable woody species and just knock them out with fire.
Okay.
Aside from that, you've got your herbicide options. I'm an Arsenal fan, depending on where you're at. If you're able to just treat those target species, then
You can do that.
yeah, that's kind of my go-to with it.
Yeah, and herbicides are very different, and we've shied away from giving any kind of prescriptions because we don't want somebody to misunderstand what we're saying and go procure some of these herbicides and use them and mess up.
Read the label.
Yeah.
Always read that.
Label.
I've had people ask me like, okay, well, what rate do I need to make? Read your label.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you're
just read
getting
the
on
label.
if you're getting in a Facebook group and asking that kind of question, you're going to get blasted. Read the label and ask very specific questions in some of these groups, and you're going to get great information. But check it with the label because some people give really good information. It's just with the wrong chemical.
That's true.
I saw a Facebook post. It was a few years ago. Somebody was told to treat one of their food plots with, I think it was 41% glyphosate.
That'll do it.
That it did it. And then he was really mad at the people in the Facebook group.
Yeah. Well, and two, you've got to pay attention to what herbicide you're using. Our beloved legend, called me up and was like, "Hey, how many ounces do I use of 2,4-DB?"
Oh, I love the story.
Just want to make sure, that everything's good. And that was before Matt had really brushed up and gotten deep into the herbicide. Now he don't have these problems. But I mentioned his time management. He's always in a hurry. So being in a hurry with that kind of stuff is not a good thing. He reached down and grabbed 2,4-D and not 2,4-DB and absolutely smoked every acre of clover he had. And he called me. He said, "How bad did I mess up?" And I said, "Well, just go ahead and start over." He said, "Oh, it'll make it." I'm like, "No, it's not.
It's toast."
It's going to be ripped, a new one. And it was
so funny.
But yeah, just read the label and check the label again, especially if somebody outside is giving you information. And
check the different, application because there's the girdling, there's hack and squirt. Like I said, it all depends on what stage of tree you're working with.
And that was
also
going to be my next question. Like, assuming that maybe these trees have gotten past that and they're a little bit more mature. I mean, is it? I know you're talking about the dollar signs go up at this point, but can you get a bobcat with a mulcher head or a dozer and just go wipe this stuff out and then spray behind it, or do you need to, what's the best way if you're going to go that route and then keep them from coming back?
You could, and I think it depends on how much you're working with, because I have seen properties where there's not enough, or it's a smaller acreage property, and you could get out there and do it yourself, and it would make more sense economically for a hack and squirt method, something like that. Now, if you're just overtaken with undesirables, get a mulcher out there and follow up with some herbicide treatments.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and what you could do in half a day with one of those, I mean.
Oh, yeah. if it's small type debris, say 5 to 6 inch diameter at breast height and smaller, they're going to be able to get anywhere from up to 6 or 7 acres a day, depending on what size machine. Now, a skid steer machine is not going to cover that much territory in a day, but a dedicated mulcher can in big stuff.
Gotcha.
Okay. But she's absolutely right. Most of the time, the landowners that we have around here, not the ones we work for. Our landowners' land bases are usually fairly large, but private landowners, hopefully more that we're speaking to, smaller, probably under 100 acres, many of them. They can do a lot by themselves and not incur that cost of a big machine having to be there. But now we've also got the option of drone spraying for small acreages, which is not cheap, but.
And we've got those drone operators all over
Yep.
the Southeast. Pretty much whatever area you're in, you've got somebody that can
And
provide
then if it's a big track, you got a helicopter.
Well, and I was going to say, I mean, in
skidder.
certain applications too, like, Dr. Kane's place.
Yeah.
Like you said, hey, man, sure, could we get equipment down here and do some of this stuff? I mean, yeah, it's just a pain. Like, it's hard to haul stuff down there, and it's a whole lot easier to just go, hey, man, why don't you go fly that drone over there? And,
For us, that's becoming a very large part of our business, because low boys are expensive, and it's expensive to haul equipment on a low boy, and having a ton truck and a big trailer, not cheap either.
Sure.
And running those up and down the roads and all the insurance associated with it, and drivers with CDL, it's going to become more feasible for folks to do things with drones. Now, the one thing that I've kind of seen with the drones, and we've got some really, really good operators that we work with, like Trayton at Taft Drone Services, they're catching on to what all those other application types cost, and they know that they can undercut a little bit, but they can still stay within arm's reach of that and still be cheaper and make good money. And they should. They're in the business to make money, but it could, as technology changes and things, I would expect certain technology to get a little cheaper as we start going down the road. But I would expect that to be a more realistic, I guess, option for folks that are not large landowners.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, I can't remember who asked that question on Instagram, but I hope that was a good answer for you. We'll move. Oh, sorry.
I'm going to add one thing. Sorry for that.
Yeah, that was a Dr. Pepper holdback right there.
There is better timings for herbicide applications, just like there is for fire. Brae mentioned the growing season burn, late season as far as late fall before leaf drop is by far your best time to apply herbicide, especially airily.
Yeah.
Then, but those trees are really, really soaking up moisture and trying to save nutrients for the winter. But one thing I want to mention, and we talked about it today and saw it today, that herbicides aren't foolproof at all. Drought conditions. We sprayed a number of tracks this fall, and I mean, airships get here when they get here. We can't make them get here. And most of our pine, I'm not going to say 90%, but I would say 60 to 70% of what pine we sprayed is still alive.
Oh, wow.
It hurt some of the hardwoods, but they're going to survive. They're dinged up, but the pines, it didn't hardly even brown needles on them.
The ones we saw today weren't even yellow.
Nuh-uh. And he had a spray crew come out and spray. It's on a hillside, not big acreage. It should have been covered fairly well. And those pines were fine. The ones we sprayed on the track down in Union Grove, they're fine. And look, that's part of it.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, I mean, you just kind of come with a disclaimer. I can't control the weather.
Yeah.
I
mean, look, we'll run hot enough fires through ours that we'll kill them anyway. But that is something that you got to. That is something that you have to take into account.
Well, that's as
a landowner.
Again, too. I mean, you can only burn in certain conditions too.
That's it.
You know what I mean? There's burn ban, and
we are beating our head against the wall over that
Yeah.
right now. How many thousand acres we got lined up right now? 5 or 6?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
And we're
That's a
sitting
lot
on
to
our
burn.
hands because we've had 2 full weeks of freezes and ground spewing.
And then we finally had good weather. There was that one we got out to it, and it did not call for it that day, but there was 25-mile-an-hour wind gust, so we just had to call it. And that's happened more than once. We
Yeah.
finally had the right conditions, but in that particular area, you're getting really high wind gust, and sometimes you just got to
yeah,
you got to know when to fold them, man.
that's
Yeah.
right. There's a guy who wrote a song about that.
They did.
Moving along here. Question number 2. If there's ever a it depends question, I think this is it. What is a good buck to doe ratio in the South, and how can you tell what yours is using cell cams?
it depends.
There you
Yeah,
go.
100%. Most clubs, if it's about a 30-to-1, I think they'd be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to when you read, it's going to say 1-to-1. Like everybody wants 1-to-1. That's really not realistic. I think instead of, and I might be alone in thinking this way, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think instead of focusing on the numbers on it, look at your habitat's carrying capacity, like how many deer they can support. Pay attention to your rut. If you're having an extended breeding season, these bucks are killing themselves trying to mate with all these does. Amp up your doe harvest. I don't like giving just hard numbers on that because a lot of people get really fixated on trying to get there, and you kind of lose the fun in managing your property when you're so focused in on, okay, well, they said I have to get 1-to-1.
1-to-1 is extremely tough. I would say that it's almost impossible in the South unless you have a monster land holding.
Yeah.
And you have a number of people working toward that same 1-to-1 goal.
Yeah.
But I'm like her. I tell people that I technically like to shoot for that, but I know it's almost never going to happen. You're going to end up, even if you're shooting for 1-to-1, more than likely you're going to end up at that 3 to 4 or so per one, which is adequate here.
Right.
A lot of people want to run more than that.
Well, I think, and this is just kind of an insight from listening to you guys talk since we started this podcast, but it just seems like management strategies for deer specifically in the Southeast, it doesn't really matter what it is, buck to doe harvest or age structure, all this type of stuff. It all kind of, what you guys keep saying and what I keep hearing you guys go to is like, this is what we'd really like to do, but it really depends on your neighbors. Like,
Yes.
I mean, in the South, because lands, your ownership is so small compared, like we were in South Texas, and we're
Thousands and thousands of acres.
Just where we were at was 40,000, and then their neighbor has another 40, and this neighbor over here has 60. Yeah, I mean,
and it's very easy when you only have 3 landowners that
Yes.
control 100,000 acres versus, Alabama, 93% of land is privately owned in Alabama, and you don't have just a couple dozen people holding several thousand acres. You've got thousands of people holding 20 and 40 acre blocks.
or you have clubs.
Yes.
Which is
Big timber company.
right. And so, but I guess specifically using cell cameras for that, because that was kind of the second part of their question. I mean, using a cell camera, how can you just get a baseline, just determine what you've got going on at any given moment?
I mean, with a camera, the only option you really have is the work on the Jacobson method and just do a camera survey. But realize that you're not going to pick up every deer.
Nope.
And realize that there are biases associated with using that technique. Look, it's useful, but it's a small piece of the puzzle. There are, if you and listeners, and I hope Brae agrees with me here, I know Matt does, you only have to worry about 2 things. to manage for proper deer here in Alabama. Do you remember those two? You know one of them.
I say, I feel like one's going to be your neighbors.
Well, it's a little more general than that. It's manage your habitat.
And age.
I don't even say – I even go more general than that. You got to manage this.
It's trigger restraint.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's so habitat and people. That's the only thing you really have to worry about. And everybody goes so deep into the animal, the feeders, the things that really don't matter a whole lot. That's where people fixate. And if they'll back up and look at it from a 70,000-foot view and realize that the two largest impacts that are made on a whitetail is done by a human and by what they live in, their food, their cover. So if you can handle those two things, the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just speaking from the other side of other perspective here. It's just I feel like the average person thinks, or at least feels like, I'm being proactive if I'm putting out a bunch of protein feed. Then I feel like I'm doing some good. And if you go, hey, look, that's cool, but it would serve you better to do a couple prescribed burns in some very specific area, get nice green flush of stuff for these deer to feed off of, rather than spending your money on all this protein.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't feel like you're having the same effect as as the leaseholder or the landowner. It's like, but don't I need to feed them something?
Well,
don't I need to, you know what I mean? Like, don't I need to go buy feed?
Yeah. Well, and another thing with that is I feel like a lot of people just fixate on your, it's September, I have to plant my food plots for my deer. And you want to focus, everybody wants to focus on protein then. And that's not necessarily the time when you need to be focusing on protein and minerals. Late summer in Alabama is brutal on deer.
Terrible.
Yep.
The post-rut recovery period and that fawning stage, the fawning lactation, and then when the bucks are growing their antlers, that's when you need to do, like, if you have the means to provide stuff like that, that's when you need to be focusing on it.
Right.
That's right.
Because come gun season in Alabama, their antlers are formed.
I see it.
Yep.
Their antlers are formed. I was about to say they're done nursing. They should be done nursing.
Yes. We want them to be
They
done.
should be
but
done.
in many places they are not.
But I saw a fawn drop in Jackson County on November 4th one year.
God.
Oh, yeah.
November 4th, that
I
little
believe
thing
that.
was wet in the middle of a field.
Wild. Is that just because sex ratios are just so out of whack?
I think it could be a lot of different things.
There's outliers everywhere. Too.
Yeah, you've got late-born does that are coming into estrus sometimes. Usually they won't because they don't reach the body weight to be able to handle it.
Right.
So they'll wait until next year, or they may actually, in crazy instances, they will come in and it'll be a really odd time of the year. But that's what she's referring to as an outlier. I mean, that's not happening a lot. But
no, just seeing that is not enough for me to be like, oh my God, we got the breeding dates wrong.
No.
Like that, it's one of those things. You've got young bucks running around everywhere. There'll be a doe that she could have been hurt while everybody else was getting bred, and she's laid up for a little bit somewhere. They're going to do what they're supposed to do, and there's going to be...
They're going to come back in estrus.
Yeah.
And as long as he's got hard antler on his head, his pencil's going to be sharp, okay?
Right.
He's going to do what he needs to do.
He will provide a service.
Yes, he will. And gladly do it, and then he'll move on.
Be tickled to death. Yeah.
Yes, but, they're not wild about it because the testosterone's much lower when they're growing antlers, when they're soft horn.
Right.
So, look, stuff happens. Outliers happen. And I'm involved in a little, it's not a spat, but just a little thread on, I think it's Alabama Deer Hunting or Hunters.
It's on Facebook.
On Facebook, where somebody was commenting about the state's map being incorrect about the rut dates. It's not. It's not even remotely close to being incorrect. I put my hands on hundreds, if not thousands, of those deer, took the fetuses out, aged them. We can age them to within a 24-hour period of when they were conceived. That map is right. Now, it's a gradient map.
Yep.
And what people don't understand about those,
it's not a hard line.
Yeah, it fills in all those gaps where we didn't.
Right.
And it tries to make it fit. It don't. Every acre and every deer is not accounted for.
Right.
So you have to understand that this is averages across a huge number of acres. So if you're 5 miles down the road or 2 miles, yeah, it can absolutely be different. But the data behind that map, and that map is correct, but they have to keep in mind it is averages.
Yep.
And you're always going to have some on either side. Everything's a bell curve.
Sure.
And as you move from one spot that's got, call it a November rut, and you move over here to this December rut, well, in between, you've got those deer that are breeding, that are on, kind of working between those two, and you may end up with some really weird rut timing in that situation. So it's not yes, it is an exact science, but maps are not exact.
No, and oh man, I think in the time that we've had the podcast, that's probably got more heat and pissed more people off when we were like, Matt was talking about when does will come into estrus. He's like, people were like, that's bullcrap. I saw deer chasing. That was a month later last year. It was whatever, and it's like
you're danged if you do, and you're danged if you don't. Because if the state had gone into every single landowner's property and was like, we're going to kill this many does and give you your exact breeding period. God.
No. They'd have a cow.
No. But then if you don't get it right on their exact block,
they just say everything's garbage.
Everything's wrong.
Yeah.
It's all
those idiots at the state don't know what they're doing.
Well, look, and honestly enough, that's part of why I left. I am not going to sit in a job where I know I'm right and I'm going to listen to every person tell me why I'm wrong. I'm like, well, something that you're referring to could be wrong, but I promise you the data I'm giving you is correct.
I did it.
Yeah, I did it. Right. I know this is right.
Yeah.
Now, you can argue with something else, but this is right.
It just goes back to pay attention to, like, if you're charged with maintaining the habitat and the wildlife on a particular property, pay attention to what's going on your property. And then act accordingly.
Yep.
Don't, and if you see something that doesn't exactly line up with what's happening on your hunting club, okay, it's wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, the best thing you can do is track it and look and see if that's what you're seeing every year. Like in Fayette, our rut where I've got a piece of ground, it's not where Matt and I hunt. Although they're only 4 miles apart, our rut is later than Matt's. It just is.
Yep.
It's about 2 weeks later, and they're 4 miles apart.
Yep. Oh, I have the same thing.
It's what it is.
I've talked about it on this podcast before, but we had a place that was 10 miles down the road in a club. It was split up into 2 properties. This place called Rock Mills. The week of Thanksgiving, it was like the Midwest. Deer running everywhere. Bucks chasing does like crazy. But as soon as the week of Thanksgiving is over, it's a ghost town. You won't see a deer over there. And then you go 10 miles up the road to Rock Springs, and it's typical late December, early January, Christmas time-ish type rut there.
Right.
Like, they're not that far apart, man.
No.
What's the deal? Like, but anyways.
And population numbers and habitat, they all play a role. So it's until somebody has some long-term data on something, I feel like I've got ground to argue with them a little bit until I see some long-term stuff. And that's why I've got no problem arguing with those guys on there. We've been, the state, and I say we, at one point I was one of the ones doing it. We had been taking rut data, fetal data for 3 or 4 decades. Look, they don't change more than 2 or 3 days over a 40-year period. I am sorry, but that result speaks for itself. Argue if you want.
Yeah.
Well,
but
and
you're
it's
wrong.
going to be one of those things like, I'm not necessarily going to tell a landowner, like, no, you're wrong.
I will.
But you will. I might. I'll get there eventually. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we can agree to disagree on it, but this is how this data was collected. This is for how long it was collected. And this is like everybody that took part in that research is fully confident in what they did and what was given to the public because of the length of time and what all went into it. So if your farm is a little bit different, okay, that's fine, but that doesn't mean we're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
also.
and a perfect example, and I was sitting in one of the meetings, and this was before your time at the department, but we had, and I came in late to that party where they were rewriting all the deer regs, but I was kind of in the end and came in and was working with that. That was primarily, I think, Chris Cook and Bill Gray and, a couple other folks that had been there for a long time, all of which are retired now. But put together a great deer plan and broke the state up into zones, kind of like what we've got now. And it was presented to powers that be, and they look at it a little bit. At this point, I'm in on the mix, so I'm hearing and seeing all this. They read through it and go, "This is too confusing," and file 13. I mean, years worth of work. Said, this is too confusing to present to the public. Figure it out. Write it up in a different way. We're going to have to change these zones to where they're easily enforceable, which is why they're roads and rivers and things like that.
Hard boundaries.
Yep. And they said, put it back out and give it to me after you've changed that. And that's what we have today.
Yeah.
So what we have today, those zones that everybody has been wanting, that's been a 15-year project. Our state agency isn't going to make sweeping changes without some reason, and I don't know that they won't now. I don't, we're not there. But back then we wouldn't. I think the only thing we would ever consider making sweeping changes on is if CWD ramped up and started acting differently where we've got it. Then I think you might see some sweeping changes. Most of the time, it takes years to get something changed.
Gotcha. That's good stuff, man. We kind of went all over the place on that one, but it's good stuff.
We like chasing rabbits.
We do. Got to every now and then. Mm-hmm. This is a straight-up hunting question here, so we're kind of going from management to just a full-on whitetail hunting question. How close is too close to a bedding area when setting up?
I'll let you take that.
Okay, I got it. It depends.
Hey, so just so you guys know, that's how every answer is going to start. It depends.
And I'm going to say it that way. It depends. I can tell you a surefire way to know if you're too close.
Bump.
When you bump them out and they blow at you, you're too close.
Yeah.
Don't go that far next time. Mm-hmm. Honestly, that can be a tricky one. I would say if you knew your property inside and out and knew travel corridors and you had good ingress, egress to stands, I don't think you can get too close, honestly, to kill a single deer.
Right.
But if you're getting in that close proximity to a bedding area, you need to be after one deer. You don't need to be going in there just trying to deer hunt. Mm-hmm. That's not going to work good for you. You've got to target your buck, or if somebody's trying to shoot a doe or something, I don't know why you would go into a bedding area to shoot a doe. I wouldn't. But if you're targeting a buck and you can figure out where that buck is using, where he feels safe, confident, use proper ingress, egress, I say you get in his bedroom with him if you can. Mm. Just straight up.
Let's hear it, Brae.
It depends. No, I mean, everything that Jeremy said, if you're bumping deer, but that's a big thing with it. Pay attention to your wind. Pay attention to, because just as much as you're patterning them, they're patterning you.
Sure.
Amen.
Also, that's something that I think a lot of people forget is as much as we watch them, they're doing the same thing.
Yep. Listening, watching, smelling.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people that that ride their property all the time, which that's not that common on club land.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people may be riding, but it's not generally one person all the time. Somebody that owns their land, it's just them and their kids. If you drive your mule around every day and go check cameras and look at fences and just tool around, in hunt season, you park that thing and walk, you're making a mistake.
Yeah.
Drive that thing because they're already used to it.
Yeah, that's what they're used to.
Yeah, laying scent down everywhere you go, they're not used to that. So they're going to start acting different as soon as they pick up on that. Mm-hmm. Do the same things consistent.
Especially, man, like I've seen it. The guy that I used to hunt with a good bit a few years back, he would go and feed his property weekly. I mean, he would go up once a week, once every 10 days at least.
Yep.
But now when it came time to hunt, it was like, all right, we're going to walk it all the way up there.
2 miles.
And finally, I mean, this is in Jackson County, so it's all billy goat looking stuff, and I'm like, hey, man, look, every time that you go up there with that side-by-side, what do you do? Well, we feed them. Yeah, okay. And then by the time we get back down to the property, your cell cams are going off.
Yep.
Because there's stuff there like, dude, let's just drive up there. Drive, let one of us off. You keep driving to your
100%.
Spot, whatever. And he was like, you know what? Never thought about that. It's just like, it's
well, look, we hadn't put out the video yet of the deer that I shot off my place. And
it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. But we drove out in the middle of that field.
Oh,
you know? Yeah, drove out in the middle of the field, checked the cameras, put our corn back out. Matt dropped me back off, and I crawled up in the shooting house. He drove the truck out and walked back down. In 4 or 5 minutes, there's deer standing out there. I mean, they're just used to us being there.
Yep.
We just don't shoot at them.
Oh yeah, no doubt. The only thing that I would add, I mean, I'm not a biologist, but for that question, how close is too close? And you kind of mentioned it, but every property is different.
Oh yeah.
And how you access it, and you said, hey man, they pattern us just like we pattern them. My stepdad, we've got this little bitty place here in Marshall County that we get to hunt, and the only real bad thing about it is there is one way in, there's one way out.
Oh yeah.
There's no way to access it from the back, or anything like that, and so
you gotta get airlifted in to kill something.
Yes, if you could be dropped by a helicopter, you'd probably smash some stuff. But
I turned loose of 1,200 acres of pretty good ag land in Jackson County because of that very reason.
Yeah, I mean it's
one way in, one way out.
It's frustrating because he's like, I've got this buck coming in on camera. I've got him every afternoon for 4 days in a row. I'm going to go kill him.
See,
he doesn't show up.
The
next day he's there. It's just like,
but that deer is killable, very easily killable.
I'm waiting to hear it.
All right. Hey, does he feed over there?
Yeah.
Okay. Start driving in every day and dump a little feed out and drive out, and then drive in and drop feed and hunt her out, and he'll be a dead deer.
Yep.
Look, they're not smarter than we are.
They're smart. They're not as smart.
Yeah. They just smell better than we do.
Right.
Not actively, but their sense of smell is better. Their sense of smell is better than ours. And
I don't know. It depends. Depending on who you are, I
depends.
guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shoot, I'd put my wife up with a deer any day as far as what she can smell and what they can smell. It's unbelievable. She does not smell like a deer.
Oh, there you go. Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, hopefully that's a satisfying answer for them. Fourth question here. What effect has baiting had on the overall deer herd in Alabama? Are they generally healthier than they used to be?
That's a dandy.
That's a good one.
It is. And honestly, Brae's going to have her answer, obviously. I don't think we really know yet. I don't think – how many years has it been legal?
It was made legal in 2019. I think they enacted it for the 2020-21 season.
So we're right on the
We're
cusp.
right on that cusp of everything we say with deer management on you need 5 to 7 years to see full effect of changes that are made.
So and what she's meaning by that, and I don't mean to cut you off at all, is we want generations that have all been born under the current feeding regulations and let them become adults before we start making that decision. In another 3 to 5 years, we can look back at that very easily and go, this was not a good decision, or this didn't hurt anything, or this was a good decision.
I mean, everything I've seen, which honestly, with me working with the state and being on public property, there was no baiting on the public properties. The neighbors were obviously baiting and stuff. You know, we saw some pretty high body weight deer, but I mean, your corn is not going to affect your antler size. It's not going to affect your fawn recruitment. You know, I wouldn't necessarily classify it as making the deer healthier. It's just extra carbs.
Right.
Extra carbs, which can be great during a really tough winter.
Yes.
During a drought. But
it's a get 'em by.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say it's just a speculation. We'll see in a couple of years, I guess. I would say it probably doesn't have much of an effect on overall health. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's attractive. They like to eat it. But
I think you're probably right
but
in most instances.
Yeah, and with that, I don't mean to cut you off either.
No, have at it.
Uno reverse.
hit him with that reverse card.
With that, deer know what they need more than we do. So if they're coming to the corn, whatever, that's what's satisfying them in that moment. I have seen deer walk past corn
100%.
to get to acorns, or acorns.
There you go.
I subconsciously corrected myself because my husband makes fun of me for saying acorns. But
Acorns, baby.
I'm in a safe space right now.
Yes. That's maybe the only time it's ever been called that.
Yes. But no, I mean, I've seen deer walk past corn to go to white oaks.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, to go to, preferred forage.
And that can even be deer personality.
Yeah.
Well, so I was going to say, like, there was one I can't remember what it was we were talking about. It may have been supplemental feed or something, but you're talking about, like, when browse is at its most, like, succulent state.
Yeah.
That's all, it's more palatable, but that's when it's the most nutritious. And so I'm looking at it from the human perspective, like, if it tastes good, you're saying, hey, if more palatable means more nutritious. Well, like, people might want to go eat a slice of cheesecake every day because it tastes good. Not because it's good for you. It's just because you like it. You know what I mean? And so the deer do the same thing. Do they go, hey, man, I'm going to go eat that corn, even though I don't, like, you say, hey, they know what they need. They know more than we do. But, like, do they just go eat corn because they like to eat corn?
Yeah,
or because
they'll operate off their baseline nutritional needs. And once those needs are met, it's fair game.
It is, yep.
They're going to go with what they like, what they enjoy.
And they have a sweet tooth. I mean, that's why all these folks are putting out
apple corn,
apple, berry,
rice bran,
peanut
butter,
all this stuff that tastes good. They do like it, but now you will have some that don't. We specifically did just over at the club, just messing around one day, poured apple corn, and we had some that just they go right to the apple corn and they just eat it till they were gone, or eat it till it was gone. But we noticed a couple of deer didn't like it. They didn't go to it ever. If we had it out, they'd go to just the plain corn, and I don't know if that was just a function of that smells different. I don't like different. I'm just going to stick with what I know, or that it actually, tried the apple corn and is like, ooh, I don't like this. This is sweet. I don't want this.
Right.
I don't know. They didn't leave us a note. But,
no Yelp review.
Yeah, I mean, we
0 out of 10. Do not
but
recommend.
I mean, sometimes just thinking out loud on that, if they're not conditioned to it and you throw out like something super sweet and weird, they're going to be hesitant
Absolutely.
about it.
Well, like us going to South Texas, you know, I mean, that had to do with feeding cottonseed.
Yes.
Well, okay, so, I mean, we know that it's very high in protein, but do deer like to eat it, though? You know what I mean? Or did you have to do something to it to get them to start eating it?
They will eat it where they come across it naturally fairly readily.
Yeah.
They're not growing cotton
No.
in the Golden Triangle of Texas.
No.
So it takes a little bit of getting used to.
Cotton's something they also hit when they need fiber.
Yep.
Like that's a
You gonna make it?
Oh, yeah. I've got to go let the dog out.
I was like, what? Well, edit that. Don't worry about it. So, yeah, anyways, y'all just hang out. Jeremy's got to do what Jeremy's got to do, I guess. Brae, we're going to keep this rolling, though.
Okay.
Because you look like you had something you wanted to say, and we're just waiting for him to show up.
Oh, no, it was just another one of those things like, you know, I've seen people add the cottonseed as a source of fiber, especially in areas where woody browse might be lower. I wouldn't call it a preferred deer forage, but it also depends on where you're at and what they're used to and what they need.
Well, like, I know that my dad had a really small enclosure years ago, and he used to raise deer, but he had, you know, just kind of a feed blend of a lot of different stuff, and it had cottonseed in it, and who knows? I mean, there was no way for us to really, like, definitively prove this, but it was his belief that he had several fawns that, or several does that had twins, and they ended up either being stillborn or ended up having some other complication because basically they held the fawns too long before dropping them, and so they were like over mature and couldn't just give birth. He thinks that may have something to do with cottonseed, or you know, but have no idea. But anyway, I was just curious because I've always wondered if, you know, like, hey, are these deer kind of like people where if something tastes good, they're going to eat it, whether it's good for them or not, or, you know, whatever. Yeah. Welcome back, Jeremy.
Thank you.
I mean, I've got a couple deer right now just hammering a rotten pumpkin that I threw out in the woods by our house.
Oh, have they got drunk?
I was about to say that fermented
it's
and
got to happen at some point. Like, as warm as it was today,
yeah,
it might be happening right now.
That's so funny when animals get drunk off of fermented food.
I've seen the video of a squirrel doing that, eating a fermented pumpkin.
Oh, yeah.
It can't climb up the tree.
Coons are the funniest.
I've seen coons get that way. Everybody's like, oh, man, this got rabies or distemper. And you're like, nah, probably not. It probably ate something fermented under the
It probably ate that
tree.
sour mash I put in the pig trap.
We'll see one about once every 2 or 3 years get drunk it'll get pears up under at the farm. Yeah. And they'll start fermenting. When they do, my gosh, you can smell it for a mile. But the critters go to it. Yeah. That and the insects. Good Lord, you get your butt lit up around one of them trees.
That's funny. Let's see. I guess this will be the last question of the day here. What is your opinion on bait/feeders being placed on established food plots versus placing them in separate locations? Thought this was a really good question.
Yeah.
So do you like to put your feeders in the same spot that you've got your food plots, or you like to separate them and put them in different spots?
It depends.
Man.
Let's just establish that.
Yep.
Assuming that it depends.
Yep. What do you think?
You seem to be very passionate about this
one. Oh, I am, 100%. I do not put bait in food plots on most properties. I will leave it at most. There are a few that I do. I don't generally recommend having feeders on the fields because you have a muddy mess around every feeder. I don't care what you do, it's muddy. Mm-hmm. Well, I say that. Ours aren't. I put gravel down and put feeder on top of gravel so I don't have mud. But
who He's got fancy feeding
I was about to
stations.
say,
Well,
that's
for,
going
for clients, that's what we do.
that's going the extra
Yeah.
mile there.
Well, and a big part of that is not deer, it's turkey. I don't want any kind of grain spillage from a feeder getting on the ground, getting wet, and turkeys eating it. We're going to buy certified grain feed that's aflatoxin free, and it's going in the feeder and it's staying off the ground. But I do that gravel pad or something under the feeder to keep feed spillage from getting wet. One, protein feed stinks to high heaven, makes a nasty mess when it gets muddy and wet. But the big thing is for the turkeys.
Gotcha. So that's why you don't like putting them in the food plot.
It's just because it's always a mess. And
If you're gonna do it, do one of those like the troughs
yeah,
you'll see on the edge of a food plot. I like that setup a lot better.
yeah. And I've got several clients that have had feeders out in the middle of food plots, and I move them. Most of them don't care. I've had some clients ask, why did you do that? And I tell them, oh, okay, I'm good with that. But another thing is most folks, because this question was baiting, it was not supplemental feeding. This person specifically asked about baiting. If I'm going to be shooting deer around bait, I don't want it to be a feeder. I really want them to feel safe around something that I've got out there that they're trying to get food from. I want them to go to it readily. If we're strictly baiting for a deer, and I know this is counterintuitive because I just said I do not like putting grain on the ground, we will keep enough on the ground to draw deer and try to shoot them that way.
So just leave it on the ground. Okay.
I don't want constant food there all the time, but if I'm like folks that are targeting a specific deer with bait, they go out and they dump a bag on the ground, and then they put their cell camera on it, and they're looking for a deer. If they don't find what they want, they move. And I'm okay with that. I just don't want long-term bait laying on the ground, getting nasty, things like that. Honestly, for me, I wish we just did away with it, period.
Oh, sure.
I would be tickled to death if all baiting, feeding was off the table, 100% illegal.
I mean, technically it is illegal unless you pay to do it.
Yeah, technically it is, yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of which, one day they'll rewrite that. I don't know when. I know why they did it that way, but I don't know when they'll rewrite that reg. One of these days.
I'm with him. I don't like a feeder in the middle of the food plot. It takes deer long enough to get comfortable with a feeder as it is. And I don't think I personally don't want to, if they're scared of it or they have a bad encounter at the feeder, because feeders are also just predator magnets for obvious reasons. Are they going to associate that negative interaction with all of my food plots? I mean, I'll just play it safe on stuff like that, but
yeah.
I also don't put out.
I've seen feeders get knocked over by other deer trying to get stuff out of it, and a particular deer be there when that feeder got knocked over, falls over. Well, they don't ever come back. Ever. Don't come back. Freak them out.
Well, see,
Gone.
I guess my only pushback here is, like you said, hey, I really like just to dump it on the ground, and and it's not there long term. It's just there to maybe try to kill a specific deer.
And I want to expand on that just a shade. When we were doing that, and we've killed some deer doing that, and we were targeting specific deer, we were taking like a 1 gallon bucket or a 2.5 gallon bucket,
not a ton,
and dumping it every single day, and the next day it's gone.
Yeah, if you're going to put it on the ground, it needs to be gone. Like, personally, 24 hours. I don't want it sitting there
that's right.
getting wet, growing mold on it.
Right.
Because that is a big problem with turkeys.
Yeah.
And in an area where turkeys are a topic of conservation, I don't think we need to be feeding them moldy corn
Right.
in a mud pile.
Yep. And that's perfect. The 24-hour rule is perfect. And where we were baiting the way we were, the way I described, there wasn't a kernel left the next day. So I wasn't worried about the turkeys from that standpoint. If it sat out there a week, I'm not for it.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
I guess my only pushback is I've hunted places where, whether it be clubs or private land or whatever, try to dump it out on the ground like that, and it may just be site specific, but it seems like that is the best way to make these deer go like totally nocturnal. It's like they'll come and wear that corn out in the day, in the nighttime hours, but they are not coming out there and showing their face.
Yep. But see, that's not a feed or feeder problem. That's a people problem.
Well, I mean, I guess it is.
Oh, I know it is.
But
Unless you're doing it every day or,
Yeah.
every other day. If somebody just decided to go out there and pour corn all over the ground and they haven't been out there.
Oh, that'll that can wiggle them out.
Because, I mean, but then you go to the same spot and put a feeder out where, like, hey, if you want to eat this, you're going to have to come out here in the daytime because it's going to sling at daytime hours, and they're not as prone to come out here at night. You know what I mean?
And I know exactly what you're saying, but I will tell you an evolution that I have seen just since feeders have become more popular. If it ain't throwing corn out, they're going to get the corn out of it.
Yeah.
Smack
it around.
Hey, I can show you cell cam all day long. I don't have a feeder over there where y'all are at or where y'all are going that's got corn in it. And they didn't have batteries in them. One of them didn't. The deer stood there with their nose and tongue and flipped it until 300 pounds of corn was gone. How we put that much corn in a feeder that somebody had taken the battery out of, I don't know, but we did. But yeah, it's totally empty. Coons same way. They just get up there and they spin it open.
Oh, yeah.
And I've sent pictures to you. I think we've even put them on the Facebook page of I've got a buck that's constantly on camera that he stands beside it and sticks his front leg up and whops the spinner and knocks corn out, stands there and eats it till he's full, and off he goes.
Did y'all see that buck that broke his neck at a feeder the other day?
I didn't see that.
So it was one of those, I'm assuming it was one of those species-specific feeders. Was that, it had like the wall style
Yeah.
bottom on it, or was it the fencing?
It was it had a predator guard up under it.
And his antler,
His
got
antler
caught.
got in it.
And you see the trail camera footage where he freaked out, broke his neck, and then coyotes came in and ate on him. A bobcat came in and ate on him. Pigs came in and ate on him.
Jeez.
It was
Wow.
wow.
look,
Bad way to go.
Yeah.
Some deer, when something out of the norm happens, they freak the heck out. And they will absolutely kill themselves. It just happens.
It is what it is.
It is.
Well, that's cool. Well, guys, that's all 5 questions. And I think we did a good job of just taking some time and walking through those and chasing a few rabbits here and there.
Yeah, but the questions have been good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about doing more of these questions.
Yeah, and we'll have a couple different biologists on. And just
Let me see your list of questions.
What now?
Yeah, I want to see your list of questions.
Why?
I may pick one crazy one out and throw a special bonus in for everybody.
No, okay. All right then.
Because I mean, look, we've got to get Brae drinking out of a fire hose like the rest of us.
Yeah. That's what I've been doing for the last, year and some change now.
Oh, boy.
Ooh, I don't know what that means. What is QQ?
What? Quick question. Sorry, I had to educate him on the text abbreviations.
Look, y'all, I'm old, and I don't get most acronyms or text abbreviations. Oh, man, that's a pretty good one. I want to throw this one at you.
Here we go.
Jesus.
Yeah. So bonus question number 6.
Here we go.
The first one of Southern U. All right. Is food or cover more important on a tract size that you own that's under 20 acres?
Under 20
If
acres?
you got a micro property.
Micro property. What's the most important thing?
It depends.
I want to see how she answers this because I know how I would answer it, and it would start that way.
Yeah.
So
And this is opinion.
it is an opinion. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about getting the right
Yeah,
answer.
no, this is just opinion.
I'm gonna give my opinion on it. If I had a 20-acre property, I think I would be more focused on making the deer feel safe and keeping them there. But, if you provide the correct cover, you've got the correct food.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm a big early successional, throw that fire out there, run a disc through it.
Burn it.
Yeah.
This sounds like a Matt Brock disciple.
Hey,
Burn it, run a disc over it. And in the summertime, throw a basketball out there. And if you can't see the basketball, you've got good fawn cover.
Yep.
With that, your fawning cover is also going to be good, typically, good protein, good phosphorus requirements for your deer.
Yep,
So I think it kind of goes hand in hand.
I do. I agree with that.
So that's what you were going to say?
Huh?
That's what you were going to say?
Oh, no. No, but I agree with her 100%.
Yeah.
I would start out with it depends. But I would follow up that with saying I would study a map very hard and figure out what the largest limiting factor was, and I would probably shoot for having a large portion of my property in that limiting factor, and then keep a small portion out to do other with.
Yeah.
That makes sense, because if you're surrounded by 500 acres
Well,
of
that's what-
soybeans,
That's what I was
just
going to
provide
say.
cover.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say is like I would probably look at I have 20 acres, but what's around me?
Yeah.
You know,
Big
if there's
picture.
no cover around me, then you may want to provide some. But
But her answer is right. If you focus on the proper cover, then you've got the food. So you've got both.
Well, I feel like, and again, this may not be what this guy's asking,
Yep.
but we sort of have to project on some of these
We do.
questions. But I feel like the average Joe, probably what he's asking is, should I be more concerned about cover? Should I be more concerned about planting food
Planting a
plots?
food plot.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? I think that's probably more where he was
Then
going.
yeah,
on
that focusing on what but that's what we keep harping on with all of your management decisions is figure out what your neighbors are doing, figure out what's around you, and then fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
And I don't know who asked that question, but if
Good question, though.
yes, and if he was talking about planting food plots versus having cover, he needs to change his thought process, or she needs to change her thought process.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be condescending or ugly, but if that's the only thing you can do is plant a food plot, then okay, I get it. But if that's what you believe is that's all you can do, reach out and we can tell you some things that you can do on 20 acres with your hands and hand tools that can benefit your habitat. And
Probably won't require breaking the bank either.
no, you know, a chainsaw on 20 acres probably go a long way if it's all timbered.
Yeah.
A disc, even if you can't.
Absolutely.
I mean, even if you don't have the openings to do food plots, if you create lanes to run a disc down, deer are curious too.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
You know, I know many landowners that about a week before season, they just start running disc lines
Oh,
through
absolutely.
open timber. Those
Yes.
deer are going to come out there.
Oh, yeah, bare dirt's
Yeah, they.
That, and in Alabama, our growing season is going into like November.
Yeah.
Matt Brock's calling.
No, Matt.
No,
We're busy.
sir, Mr. Legend.
For
We
real.
are busy.
We're out here
You
doing-
should have been here.
We're out here doing the Lord's work.
That's right. Actually doing the Legends work right now.
That's right.
But, yeah, no, good. I thought I remembered a question like that. That's why I asked.
It's probably
I
what
have
we
your
ought to
phone.
do. We should just throw in a bonus question for this series every time. So,
Yeah, and we need to start making them hard.
Yeah.
Just
That's right.
really.
Yeah, you know,
really
I kicked
tough.
it off. Next episode, next guest, make it hard.
Make it tough. So you're coming back next. Right?
That's right. Matt, y'all better wrap this up.
That's funny. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, it's 7 o'clock.
I know.
Tay is jonesing for some lay-down time.
I'm jonesing for some edit time. We got to get this uploaded before 10 o'clock tomorrow. So
Yeah.
We believe in you.
Oh, yeah.
No
We
pressure.
were your limiting factor on that, but
Limiting factor.
Yes.
But there was nothing I could do. I
100%.
couldn't plan a food plot. I couldn't.
Yeah. But it's, again, the hardest part of this job is the people.
Yeah, for sure.
And if any biologist tells you that, then they're not thinking of their three-legged stool that all of us were taught about.
That's right.
The people's always the shortest leg. It's the one that tips you over
That's right.
100% of the time.
and I think we're in this age of like so much information is available to
Oh.
you at all times that it's getting to the point where people are overcomplicating it, and
Yep.
that's where you're going to lose your passion for it, and that's where you're going to lose that drive by overcomplicating it. Like with the sex ratio question, if you're sitting there just focused on I have to get to this number, you're not going to enjoy it anymore.
Right.
That's right. And some people get down into the weeds like that because they're very, very analytical. And those are the type of people you have to get them to pull back and say, take a breath, calm down. We don't have to get that deep. You're not a deer breeder. You're not a high fence that's got to worry about how many deer you're running.
Well, you
Let's-
can't control everything.
At
in a
the
free
end of
range
the day,
population,
we
you know?
are trying to manipulate living creatures to benefit more living creatures. Like, we're not going to be able to control things 100% of the
No.
time.
Yep.
And once you kind of accept that,
Yeah.
things become a lot more enjoyable, and they tend to go a little bit better.
Yeah.
Once you're kind of like, all right, I can't explain everything,
Yep. For
but this
sure.
is what I can do.
Right.
Well, that's. I mean, back in my something we used to say a lot in staff meetings at the church when I was on staff was people in general, especially at this day and age, don't have an information problem. They have an application problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have access to. God, I mean, look, jump on a Google search or get on YouTube University, and you can learn. You'd be surprised at what information is out there for you to consume. The
Oh,
problem is
absolutely.
what of this information is legit, and then how do I apply this information to my situation?
Well,
That's-
and reach out to
absolutely,
us on
you
that.
know?
Like,
Yeah.
we love those kind of questions.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
yeah,
There are numerous people out there, and our industry is no different, but giving information on this is what you need to do, how you need to treat your side by side. This is oil you need to use.
Yeah.
They don't know. Same thing with the heavy equipment. The same thing with wildlife. You've got folks that have killed a good deer in their life, or a few good deer in their life in a good area, and everybody's like, well, dang, that guy knows what he's doing. I'm gonna hire him to manage my place. And it's because he's got a good place to hunt and lucked up and killed some good deer. And let's face it, deer hunting is a large part is luck. It's not always, there's skill involved.
I
But
not to throw anybody under the bus on anything
Like
like
Brock?
that. Yeah, like Brock. No. But if somebody is coming at you with like, this is what you're doing wrong, and if you do this, you're going to have these immediate results, be wary of that.
yeah,
Because once again, at the end of the day, it's wildlife.
yes, man, because I don't want to point people out, but I mean, there's numerous things. I can make bucks come in this spot. No, you can't. I can make deer bed in this spot. No, you can't.
I can pull deer off of that property onto this property.
Yeah, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I can make a deer, come through this spot, but oh, by the way, I can put the food plot oriented in such a way, or the salt block oriented in such a way. I can make him turn the right way so that you got a good shot. No, you can't. I mean, there's so many of these things that people say that, oh, if we do this, this is what's going to happen. You're not guaranteed that. I mean, we can go do all the habitat manipulation in the world on your place, and if you don't have the potential in the genetic makeup of that deer to be 160 inches, there's nothing we can do to make him 160 inches.
Nope.
And beyond that, we can do all the habitat work in the world. But if you can't control your trigger finger,
Or your neighbors.
You can't control your neighbors. You can't control the guests you allow on your property.
Not 100% anyway.
Then it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not a one-size-fits-all on anything. There's not one secret answer to any of it.
Yeah. That's why. And look, we all want to kill big bucks, but the antler chase is what's made management very hard, because there are some places just never going to have big racked bucks. I mean, they may, you may do work and you may increase the quality of deer that you're harvesting or antler size by 30 or 40%, but most time you're going to see a 10, 15, 20% increase, not a 40, 50, 60.
Well, and even in some places, that 10, 20%, it's better. It's still not whatever you think it ought to be.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Just
it takes you from 110 to 130.
Yes.
But by gosh, you're going to kill 150. Well, you may not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe once in your life.
Yeah.
But in Alabama, they've got to be able to reach that potential also.
And see, that's our biggest problem here is deer being pulled too early. Yeah. I mean, still, and we've talked about it, and Brae's talked about it with us, and really trying to launch different ideas, but there's got to be another push like QDMA made 20 years ago to make cooperatives a popular thing in the South. Mm-hmm. If we could get people to leave their egos behind and work with neighbors, we could change the dynamic of hunting as we know it. Yeah. But people aren't willing to give up the immediate satisfaction of, oh, I killed that, I'm going to post it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever.
Or even worse, not even necessarily wanting to kill it, but killing it so their neighbor doesn't kill it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Or, man, this is my last time to go. I had to kill something. Mm. It's like, well, you didn't. Now, if you're needing that for meat, whatever, all bets off. Don't care what you do. But I love hearing well, man, it was the only buck I saw that day, and I'm not going to get to hunt again, so I shot that spike. But, man, before that I saw 6 or 8 does, and like,
shoot the doe.
Shoot a doe. Mm-hmm. You just said you saw 6 or 8, but see, that's the exact person that turned around and says, "Oh no, we don't have enough deer to shoot does." And I saw that on a comment last night on Facebook somewhere and it's actually a guy I know. I think he posted, "Shoot a spike, save a doe," and where he is at, he's not really wrong. Right here, where you are at. Yeah. That's not wrong.
Yeah.
If you see a spike, shoot the darn spike. Don't kill your does because you've got 2.
Yeah.
So everywhere's a little different.
Yeah.
But
it depends.
Yes. It always does. You've got to do what works for you. That's why we don't shoot any deer here. I mean, period. I could hunt my farm. We've got a few. I'm not going to shoot a deer there.
Yeah.
I hope my neighbors don't. I've about chastised them enough to where most of them
Shamed
don't.
them.
Well, yeah. Last year, I had a cell camera out on my little food plot behind the house, and I had a picture of one deer all year long. A little 2-year-old buck walked across the property line. They smoked him. It's like, I've had a camera out for a year and got
a
deer.
Yeah.
So they have 100% success rate.
Correct. Yep. But now, we've done some stuff on the farm, and our neighbor to the north, actually to the west, not north, has a few hundred acres, and I've helped him with some of his stuff, and so we're actually holding a few more. I've got 3 or 4 deer now.
Increase, baby.
Yes. I mean, look, hadn't taken the camera down. It's still up.
Yeah.
And I've got 3 or 4 deer.
Nice. That's cool. Well, guys, I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Again, we've got more in this series coming, and we'll have some different faces on the podcast, and I think there'll be some unique perspectives and some people that are a little more specific, too.
Watch out for Brae more, and she's going to be taking my place and Matt's place an awful lot in everything that we do.
Yeah.
So we needed some help, and they're expanding, and you're going to be seeing some more faces before long.
Yep. That's right. So, and stay tuned. Like I said, we got a lot of stuff coming from the South Texas trip. It's not, we got to find time to edit all this stuff and get it out there to you. Yeah. But if you haven't seen it, the first episode or first hunt from South Texas, go check that out. It's on YouTube, and might get to see some skunk pigs.
And if you look, and I know there's two of you out there that watch this for me, my wife and one buddy. Y'all can leave the Texas stuff out. I'm not any of it.
But I will say this. Please like, share, subscribe, all those good things.
Yeah.
We have not really talked about this too much, but I think there's certain thresholds. Every platform is different that you have to meet, criteria you've got to meet in order to be able to monetize some of this stuff. We've not made a dime from the podcast or anything up until this point, so we would really like to make a little something to make trips like South Texas possible, and other things that we're trying to do to bring as much information as we can to you guys. So, and
we may promote a few things and give a few things away to bolster that a little bit.
Yep.
But we need y'all's help expanding.
No doubt.
I mean, our services are expanding to what we're doing.
They are.
But it's growing rapidly, but our viewership, it seems like it.
Yeah,
it's just every day is different, which is I don't understand that stuff. That's your wheelhouse.
Oh,
we'll leave that.
Don't
up to
even
you.
know if I understand it honestly, but
I don't know if anybody does.
Yeah, I know people have got it figured out. They got.
Where's Mr. Beast? Can he come hang out
for
with
real?
us?
Yeah, we'll
I'm
have.
out.
he can give us $1 million or whatever
for real. And speaking of expansion and stuff, we do have some really, really exciting news coming soon. I'm not sure exactly how soon.
Okay, I was going to say, do you know how soon? Because I hadn't heard.
It's coming. We got kind of first revisions of some things for us to check out and make tweaks and stuff like that. So can't let the cat out of the bag just yet, but I promise as soon as it's available, we're going to let you guys know, because I think it's going to be something that a lot of people in the Southeast would be excited about, and it could potentially help a lot of people. So,
yep.
But we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for listening in. We know we went a little longer than normal, but just pretty excited about the series. We will have more.
That just goes for today. Everything's been longer than it should have been.
Amen.
Yes.
But we got.
But all for good reasons.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But we will see you guys on the next one.
Peace out.
See ya.
See ya.